A male Cardillion entered the poorly lit room, coughing and rubbing his eyes as the smoke from tobacco poisoned his senses. "Inspector Rakshan, you are finally here," said a fat and old Griogurian while inhaling from his cigar. "Good evening, Captain Kai. I rushed here as soon as I heard the news. What's going on?" "Take a seat. The interrogation is about to begin." On the other side of the tinted glass, there was a Grigorian female sitting alone, silently. Seemingly terrorized, she hadn't opened her mouth ever since they brought her in, and was hugging the rusty desk lamp as if it was her most prized possession. What happened to her? "Apparently she is a member of the White Alley." "Really? I didn't know there was a raid planned," said the young inspector, very surprised. "Actually, she just surrendered herself. We don't know why or what happened. She just showed up and begged us to get her away from here. I guess some sort of war is happening in the criminal underworld," commented the captain. "The interrogation is about to begin." From the door, 2 officers entered the interrogation room. After calmly arranging piles of paper and recording devices, they sat down on one side of the metallic foldable table, opposite from the woman. "Ma'am? Ma'am, are you there?" asked one of the interrogators. She didn't even raise her eyes. After taking a closer look, Rakshan murmured to himself. Scared, unresponsive, no external or internal injuries, but elevated heartbeat, an altered mental state. She is also holding that lamp. Maybe she intends to use it to defend herself. The inspector leaned forward and spoke into a microphone. "Try to take the lamp." Hearing the command through her earpiece, the female officer stood up and tried to reason. "Ma'am, don't worry. You are safe here. You can let go," she said softly. She did not reply, but hugged the lamp even tighter and turned away from the policewoman, her pupils dilating and her body trembling at the mere thought of letting go. The officer got closer and insisted. "No, please. They will get me. They will kill me. Please, please, take me away. I need to leave the city. No, I must leave the planet." Everyone was surprised at her reaction. No matter how powerful the organized crime was, there was no way they could get to her now, not here, in the district's biggest police station. Something felt strange. Something felt wrong. Rakshan spoke again on the microphone. Pressing a red button, he forced his voice through the speakers. "Tell us your name, affiliation, and why you surrendered yourself." The woman was not listening. She just kept repeating that they were after her, that it was all over. It took several minutes until the officers managed to calm her down and make her talk. I am... well, in Galactic Standard my name would be something like Pandora." They had to calm her down again as she started stuttering random sentences after these few words. "The White Alley. A large underground institution that specializes in entertainment. I was part of the Ring of Fear, one of its sub-organizations," the woman said, still trembling and shaking. This was incredible news. The police knew very little of the intricate workings of the criminal empire, and even less about the rumored Ring of Fear. "We have extensive information about your group. We would like to hear what you have to say. In exchange, we will help you as best as we can." Tried to bluff Captain Kai to extract a confession. It was not necessary. She immediately told everything she could. "Yes, I'll tell you everything. Just get me out of here." The 2 agents inside nodded at the black glass and prepared themselves to record the statements. "The Ring of Fear is founded by rich individuals to appease the twisted desires of some of the wealthiest of society. We have this machine, but how it works is less important right now compared to what it can do." "And tell us more about the goings of this machine," said the male officer, while enthusiastically taking notes. "No, there's no time. I will tell you more once I am off this planet." Usually the interrogators would have insisted, but Rakshan had an eerie feeling and allowed Pandora to keep talking. "This machine is powered by soul crystals." On the other side of the glass, the police captain was furious at the level of disrespect they had for the dead. Soul crystals are refined from recently deceased individuals, and it is said they contain fragments of the soul. Not only is this highly illegal and unethical, but the fact that they are used as power sources, not just as creepy mementos, would confirm the very existence of the soul. Keeping his rage and frustration at bay, Kai ordered her to continue. "The machine needs to be connected to a subject, and uses soul crystals as energy cells. It can reveal, analyze, and even manifest someone's deep, primordial and innate fears, bringing them to reality as a single entity. Rich people like to see fights between different species' fears, and also enjoy when they slaughter sentient beings. The machine's data-gathering process is quite painful, and no sane mind would ever volunteer. We resorted to kidnappings to get the resources needed. By the gods, was all that the inspector managed to utter. This was beyond insane. Everyone that heard stood in silence. I'm a researcher. I observe and catalogue every fear we manifest. These fears take the form of a threat from the world each species originated from. For example, the Greigorians, being sociable herbivores, will manifest an apex predator, whose features are an amalgamation of many carnivorous animals that haunt their past. Pandora became agitated once again, visibly struggling with her speech. The level of danger of each species' fear is linked by the ecosystem in which they evolved. It is very rare that the machine discovers more than a single fear for each species, but when that happens, the manifestation always contains elements from all the fears, in relation to their impact on the species as a whole. Another example, Cardillians, being carnivorous reptiles, are quite special for having two fears, an ancient strong predator and a severe lack of food. The manifestation of those two fears is that apex predator, but with a constant state of hunger. Just thinking of what would happen if this machine fell in the wrong hands made everyone nervous. It was then that Rakshan had that unnerving, unnatural feeling once again. At first he could not fully understand it, something forgotten but somehow familiar. It was the feeling of being watched. Centuries had passed since the last of his kind died from a natural predator. He was confused. He was almost scared. He kept listening. I'm not going to pretend that we were in the right, but I am proud of our achievements as a researcher. That being said, lately the clients have been demanding bigger, scarier, and more dangerous creatures. We started to kidnap individuals originating from harsher and deadlier worlds. We were gambling with nature. A single soul crystal could power up to 10 manifestations, but as we began abducting more exotic subjects, the price to operate the machine kept growing. As time passed, we had to procure more and more crystals. The more powerful the fear, the higher the cost. She took a big breath to calm herself down, but she was still shaking. As Pandora was about to continue, she and the two officers suddenly turned towards a dark corner of the room. Something wrong? Asked the captain. Sir, I swear we heard something strange from there, hesitantly said both officers. We heard and saw nothing from here. Besides, we are deep underground with several layers of security. There's nothing to worry about, he replied. Please continue, said the young inspector. Tightening her grip on the lamp even more, she hesitantly resumed her story. We made a mistake. She made a long pause. What mistake? Impatiently asked Rakshan. To appease our clients, we kidnapped a human. Human? Asked the old captain to the inspector. A newly discovered species. They entered the galactic community just 7 years ago, and recently joined the coalition in their war against the Union. It is said they are outstanding warriors, but I don't know much more about them. Can you tell us why you chose humans? Spoke into the microphone. A human would be a novelty. The only known sapient species from a death world. We kidnapped a young female in her early 20s. After analysing and studying her, we were astonished and somewhat alarmed. She hardly spoke, her voice trembling and shaking. The officers took some good effort to make her break the silence again. The machine, after studying the contents of her species' subconscious, only returned one word. Not the usual fear founds 1 or the occasional 2. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. It read, error. No matter how many tries, reset or updates we attempted, the message was always the same. My colleagues, euphoric at the prospect of making enough money to buy our freedom, urged me to keep going. This was a mistake. A big mistake. The lights in the room flickered. It was strange. Very strange. Everyone expected Pandora to throw a tantrum, but she was just immobile, scared, just wanting to finish the confession and leave the planet. After revealing the number of fears, the machine usually analyzes them, displaying them into words we can read. Not this time. This time the word was impossible. Fuck, I didn't even know the program could give that reply. She was about to stop again. The captain preceded her. Keep going. Lastly, before manifesting, the fears the machine gives them a name. Names are not unique to each species, so for context, many manifestations have just the name Predator. When we ordered the machine to name the human fears, the screen was just blank. We thought it was broken, since the entire display was empty, as if turned off. It was then that I asked my fellow researchers to stop this madness, saying that we were going too far, going too deep. Everyone laughed at me. They called me a coward and joked they would not share the reward money if I left. Every police officer held their breaths. I was too scared. I looked at the containment chamber that would hold this fear. It never failed us, never even cracked, never let us down. But somehow I had a feeling that this time would be the first and last. I unhooked the unconscious human from the machine and ran out. Nobody stopped me. Why would they? The files and data were already in the machine, and they were too blinded by greed to care about what I would do next. The lights flickered again in the interrogation room, this time for longer. Once the lights came back, a large visible bruise could be seen on Pandora's neck. It was not there before. Everyone froze in silence, in terror. From her eyes, tears wet the dry cheeks, motionless as if immobilized. She kept speaking while sobbing. All I remember was my co-workers loading 7 soul crystals and laughing at the blank screen while pressing the manifest button. It was not broken. The whole screen was not blank, it was black. The lights went out everywhere. Rakshan instinctively grabbed the captain's lighter from the desk. In the dark he felt observed. There was nothing in their room, but on the other side of the glass, barely illuminated by the feeble emergency light, they saw something. Something monstrous but impossible to describe was lurking around Pandora and the 2 officers. The light came back, after what looked like infinite seconds. There was nothing. But the 3 on the other side were covered in bruises and scratches. Help, please! They are here. They will kill me. Tell us more, so that we can help, shouted the inspector over the comms, more interested in his safety rather than hers. As soon as they pressed the button, the whole laboratory was engulfed in an impenetrable darkness. The human I was carrying a moment earlier was nowhere to be seen. The lamps were acting strange. They were not illuminating around them at all. They were on, for sure, but light itself seemed broken. I lit a fire and even the flames looked oppressed. It was as if a thick black fog surrounded us. I could not see 5 meters in front of me, but from the darkness, I heard them. It was terrifying. Roars and calls from unknown predators. Sounds of natural catastrophes from the most inhospitable of worlds, such as lightning, tornadoes, and volcanoes. And the things I did not recognize, nor dared to know. Even silence was frightening beyond reason. As she was speaking, the lights flickered again, just for a split second. Once they came back, the male officer was no longer in the room. I stumbled upon a researcher I knew, and we ran together towards the exit. Then out of nowhere he just fell out of my sight, not to the ground, but in an endless crevasse that materialized out of nowhere. I've walked that corridor countless times in my life. There never was a hole there. I called out for him, but my attention was diverted, as I heard the sounds of an avalanche getting closer in the darkness. As I looked back, the ravine was no longer there. There was just the floor, nothing else. The lights played the same wicked game. This time the female officer disappeared. I ran as fast as I could, but the things in the dark were always there. No matter how slow or how fast I ran, they were always at the same distance. Shadows of intelligible beings, or noises of forgotten predators. I then understood. The primordial fear of humanity. The fear of the unknown. The fear of what lurks in the darkness. The fear of what you cannot see. Real and imaginary threats just outside your field of view, tricking your senses and always in reach to catch you. Or merged into this abomination that we created. They are everywhere, and nowhere at the same time. The lamps trembled for the last time. Pandora was no longer in the room. No one was there. There was just enough time to let Rakshan realize what happened, before the gloom engulfed him as well. What followed can be simply described as pure panic. The Cardillion ran, screaming through the deserted corridors of the police station. He made it outside, but even in the middle of the day, the sun could barely be seen through the darkness. He kept running. He kept crying. He stumbled across more bodies and unrecognizable corpses. He was fast, but the things were not slower. As he kept going, he got clawed, bit, and grabbed several times by the creatures and things from the dark. After interminable minutes, he could run no more. He was almost tempted to just give up, to let them get him, but he saw a faint glare. A few meters from him, a light was slowly approaching, rays so pure not even the beams from the void could get close. With a last dash, he reached this beacon of safety before collapsing on the ground, bloodied and injured. An odd, unrecognizable figure was staring at him. "Who are you?" asked, while covering his eyes, no longer used to the lack of darkness. "I am. Let's just say that I am human," she kindly replied, after thinking about it. "Ah, you. You must be the one they kidnapped. Please, help me. We need to escape." "You cannot escape what is not tangible. At least you don't know how. No matter where you go, they will hunt you and everyone who knows of them. This planet is lost. There's nothing your people can do now." "What are you saying? Ah!" he screamed out in pain. "Save yourself at least." As they were speaking, Rakshan realized that the light around them was coming from the strange human, in particular from her head. How are you making this light? And how can it keep the monsters away?" he asked, slowly running out of breath. "This light is not natural, nor artificial. This light is in direct contrast to the darkness you created. It's the light that freed our ancestors from the fears of myths and legends. It's the light that inspires artists. It's the light that shines through the unknown, leading the way to explorers. It's the light that illuminates the notes of scientists late at night. I am the light of reason. He was too scared, tired and injured, to try and understand. If you know that creatures cannot hurt you, they will not hurt you, because they are not real. If you think the creatures can hurt you, they will hurt you, because they are real to you. She said, starting to walk away. Mortally wounded, the young Cardillion could do nothing but plead her not to leave him behind. Leave him in the darkness. I don't understand. Please, help me. Don't go. He kept screaming, even while being devoured alive, as the glow from the human kept moving forward, marching the unbeaten path, pushing away the unknown, not turning back. As he was being torn apart, he could only think of the last thing he heard. You are not scared of being alone in the dark. You are scared of not being alone in the dark.